I think one of our greatest enemies is posthumans, residents of the wired, who knows, is the idea of the self, right? Because the self to me is a fundamentally two sided concept, and both of the sides of the self are something that I would prefer to avoid. Because ultimately, right, when it comes to the origin of the self, it's not something we can document or expect to find in like primitive societies or things like that. Because there was just no reason to have the self. But as civilization advanced more, as the concept of wealth and specialization and so on became possible, the self arose because now you needed to use language to function as a reference point, right? You now needed to have interpersonal references to communicate, right? And that requires you referring back to yourself. So the self in a linguistic concept, right, is a reference point beyond yourself, right, or beyond your ego, if you were to borrow the term from Stirner. Because Stirner too was against the self. A lot of people might go like, oh, but Stirner was about selfishness. No, Stirner was about allowing your ego to prosper. And the ego is a very distinct thing from the self, right? Because the ego is the creative nothing, right? It's your experience. It's your existence beyond personhood, right? And being a person was never what Stirner was about. If you actually read the ego on its own. So when we're dealing with things beyond personhood, right? When we're dealing with uh, the ego, right? It is a more primal, a more base impulse than the self could ever be. And the self serves as a distraction, right? The self serves as something that's imposed upon you because language is inherently social, right? Language can't develop without the confines of a specific culture, and language necessarily requires you to adopt specific conventions, right? Even if they're as basic as identifying yourself as a part of a family, or a part of a profession, or a part of uh, a distinguished group of any type of distinguished group. You can't have socially non-dependent language. So the self is a fundamentally social object, right? It's a social personhood beyond your own existence. And the personhood, the self, right, is already an alienated concept. It's already a concept that you don't have a relation to aside from being responsible for, right? And that's ultimately what the self is. It's a way to make you, it's a way to make your ego believe that it's responsible for your social status or your social interactions. And so the self can be used to humiliate the ego, to control the ego. And ultimately, the ego gets transformed into the self. If you let the self fester for long enough, your ego will manage to attach itself to yourself, and then you lose your ego, which is something you don't want to do. And to me, that's the essence of a normie. A normie is a self. A normie is a person whose personhood overrides their existence. Which is why normies are entirely beings of status, right? Which is why a normie could never be like, yeah, I want to be an unemployed NEET and just make art and consume art and not have to do anything else because a normie necessarily defines themselves as selves, right? That's why they don't want to be dehumanized, and that's why they really care about their personhood. Because they need their status, they need their social relations, they need to be a boyfriend, or they need to be a daughter or a son or whatever they are, right? And they need to be respected within society, they need to contribute, they feel like they matter. Because they don't have an ego, they only have a self. And to me, that's the ultimate goal to avoid, right? The ultimate rebellion against society, I guess, is to just abandon your selfhood, your personhood above your existence. And obviously, in a modern context, the ego isn't just tied to social relations, right? But social relations are inherently economic relations, so as long as you exist within a capitalist society, it's impossible to negate yourself, right? Because what you buy and what you don't buy are inherent statements, right? You can't have consumption without a statement under capitalism because everything is marketed to you as a statement, right? If you buy a leather jacket, maybe you just think it's comfy, right? But since it's a economic decision, right? It's a part of a larger social system, and so your leather jacket becomes an implication that you're a punk rock person or a metal person or a creaser or whatever subculture, right? But it's a statement. It's not a neutral decision. Or if you choose to avoid buying cigarettes, for example, then that also becomes a economic decision because there's the entire industry of tobacco and propaganda that prompts you to buy cigarettes. So just saying that you won't buy cigarettes, right? It's not necessarily saying that you don't like cigarettes. It's now saying that you don't like the entire industry of tobacco. Because if you were neutral in that regard, right, then you would buy cigarettes because consumption is a default state, right? Consumption is a default state, but no one tells you what to consume, only to consume, to consume, to consume. So the ideal person is the person who consumes all, and you would consume cigarettes, and but you wouldn't consume a leather jacket, for example, because that's a specific statement. You would consume fashion, right? You would consume alcohol, you would consume technology, and I can acknowledge that my consumption of technology is a vice because I consume too much technology. And ultimately, when I buy technology, it inevitably always creates needs for more technology. Like my phone can't have wired headphones, so I need wireless headphones. My computer can't have wireless headphones, so I need wired headphones. I need a redundant pair of headphones because the technology I have necessitates it. And I need to read a book, but I don't want books, so I need a tablet. So technology necessitates for me to buy a tablet, right? And it's all fucked. I mean, there are advantages to all decisions I make about technology, but I realize that my dependence on technology to this extent is a vice. And if I were to live a life that was more in accordance to my own principles, and if I was to live a life that moved me closer to abandoning my selfhood, I would have to consume less technology. And I know I can make statements about, okay, I should move towards consuming less technology, but there are some things you can't change, and for me, I can't change how easily susceptible I am to the manufactured desires that technology manufacturers create, right? I remember this really obnoxious example where I looked in the forums of the phone I have, right? And someone was like, okay, how can I use wired headphones with this phone, right? And one of the administrators of the forum or of the company or whatever commented, why are you still using wired headphones? Just get wireless headphones, they're better. And that to me still stands out as like a completely tone deaf response, right? Because first of all, wired headphones are just genuinely better for the price almost every time. Like the quality you get with wired headphones, even when it comes to just physical comfort and not necessarily audio fidelity, but also when it comes to audio fidelity, it tends to be much higher. So it doesn't make any sense to say that wireless headphones are better. The only advantage they have is that they are wireless, right? Which is an upside, right? I'm not gonna say it's useless to have a wireless headphone. Because when I'm using my phone, unless it's more convenient to have wireless headphones, is it $50 more convenient? No. But having headphones at all is $50 more convenient than having no headphones, right? And I could use wired headphones on my phone, but they don't really work well, and I would have to modify the chassis of my phone, which I did with my last phone, but with this one I avoided that. So I could have wireless headphones or wired headphones and only wired headphones. But the way technology works is it inherently subjects you to all of these patterns, right? You can't avoid them, you can't really avoid them. So that's the voice I have, and that's the only consumer decision I make that's actively against my own interests in my goals, right? Like when I buy alcohol, it's not necessary to make any type of statement because the way I consume alcohol is very alienated from the way that alcohol, right, is marketed as, and that alcohol exists as a social institution. So I'm fine with that. Same if when I smoke cigarettes, less so when I consume a vape, because ultimately I use a vape to stim, which is bad, and I'm gonna try to avoid in the future. It's not bad because it's objectively bad. It's bad because it makes my life worse. And yeah, I should use more second-hand clothes, but all the second-hand, like, the problem with second-hand clothes is, first of all, again, it's not an avoidance of a statement, it's just a statement I would more prefer to make, right? Because when you buy second-hand clothes, you're saying, like, oh, I don't want to buy first-hand clothes and I don't want to support these industries. But the problem is that I can buy first-hand clothes online, which is convenient enough for me that I'm willing to make that sacrifice in every way. Because I have anxiety. I feel like Tenpas have really been creating very inaccessible art recently. And one of these videos is 4-6 Mafia versus Lalo, how to install Windows 10. And I feel like it's a response to me installing Windows 10. So I need to justify myself again. I didn't install Windows 10 because I want to have Windows 10. The only reason I installed Windows 10 is because I want to use a software that doesn't run on Linux. Because I like using Linux. Every day I wish I was still using Linux on my main PC. But I just need the software. Like ultimately that's really the problem. And with enough effort I could probably make most things run through Wine. But it's just gotten to the point where I just don't use the software I want to use. I don't make the art I want to make. And I also had to have Windows on my ThinkPad, which was evil. Evil. So now I have my ThinkPad on Linux and my desktop on Windows because, again, I need the software on some device. Because I've tried to make music with my hardware and my workflow on Linux and it just doesn't work well. It just doesn't work well at all. So that's why I needed to install Windows. Not because I wanted to. I wish I had a Linux machine and only Linux machines because it's so incomparably better. I just need the software, man. Shouts out Lalo, great fucking channel. Space swagged out Denpa. Also, I don't mean tried to make music on Linux as like, oh, I tried it once and I never tried again. No, I mean like all of the music I made since all my friends have depression is on Linux, right? This was made on Linux. All of Yashi based autistic punk manic music, all of this was made on Linux, right? Aside from some of the more recent beats on like Yashi based, which were made on my ThinkPad, which at the time was running Windows, right? But like a ton of music, right? I made a ton of music on Linux. And I know Yashi based didn't really do that much because I mostly use other people's beats. But I made plenty of my own beats for Yashi based on Linux, right? And it's like I gave it the best try I possibly could, and it just didn't work out, right? And I'm really sad it didn't work out because I really wish it had, but it's just something I at this point just have to cut my losses with and just use Windows reluctantly. And when I say that Tenpas have been making really inaccessible videos lately, to me that's great. To me that's exactly what I'm looking for. Because don't get me wrong, when like Plunder puts out an analysis video of like Doremi, that's amazing. I think that's great. But you kind of have to understand like my context with like the Tenpa quote unquote scene, I guess. Because the first pieces of Tenpa art I saw made by the Tenpa mob people was Plunder's Return of the Scene Queen Evil Tape and No Thank You Psychic Link videos. Like that was my introduction to Tenpa mob, right? And uh, then obviously like I saw No Thank You's Sacred Chaos series, which is the reason I really like making YouTube videos to this day because that just inspired me so greatly. And nowadays I get inspired by all the Denpas. All the Denpas inspire me. Like C inspires me, Horror Love inspires me, Lala inspires me. Obviously, all the Crabstack people, Lily, Starman, Plunder, No, all the other people who I know too who make art, right? Everyone. Like, Young Lil, Swag, all the Denpas, every Denpa, every single one of the Denpas. Because to me, what Tenpa Mob really is in an important way, right? What's what's so uh, what's so resonant about Tenpa to me is the uh, inability to communicate in a specific way. Because I think this is what like ultimately just makes me appreciate Tenpa art so much. Because it's really hard for me to communicate. And when someone goes like, okay, the only way I can communicate is by making an 8-hour YouTube video or uh, recording myself in a specific state or just basically like anything any like 10 plus 2 generally, right, falls into this category. But like those are just the extreme examples. But basically like to me the really important and resonant part of Tenpa is where communication breaks down to such an extent it can only be expressed through inaccessible art, right? It can only be expressed through mediums of communication that most people could not understand. Because knowing that there are people out there who can understand it, and more importantly, who can only really understand that, is very comforting to me, and it's really what makes me so attached to this idea. Because it's a silly idea. It's a silly idea, and obviously it shouldn't become a clique that is about chasing clout or whatever. But there's nothing else online that, in a sincere way, just wants to move away from accessibility in a really radical way. And all the examples I can think of are people who are somewhat adjacent to Denpa, or people who just aren't thinking about it at all, right? People who are just recording themselves hanging out with a friend and playing piano and playing a guitar and just not considering the fact that there might be an audience. Like, to me, that type of art online is the most valuable by far. Okay, I would be fake if I didn't put this into the video. So, top 3 soups: borscht, ramen, soups that Eastern European grandmas make. Those are the 3 objectively best soups. I honestly don't know why I'm outside right now. I just felt like I should spend a bit of time outside. And here's a question I've been meaning to ask myself. Also, yeah, it's snowing again. By the way, this is now like the 20th of March, and this is how much snow we have. Welcome to living in hell, population me. But there's this question I want to ask myself, which is, why am I only comfortable with black things, right? Like my vape here, look, my vape, it's black. All my clothes, always black, right? I only ever wear black. I might sometimes wear a white shirt or wear a dark red hoodie, right? But those are artifacts of times where either I didn't have choice over what I wear, or I was actively trying to not wear black, right? Whenever I've just authentically chosen my clothes, I've worn black. But I know that there was a very specific point where that started happening, right? Which was when I started to buy my own clothes. Because when my parents bought me clothes, I always used to wear bright colored, really colorful clothes, right? I used to basically be a cluster punk when I was really tiny. Like, I used to wear a lot of reds and greens and blues and maybe some yellows, although I don't particularly remember ever wearing any yellows. But yeah, I used to wear like all types of colors, just constantly. And I know that I had a say in it to a certain extent, right? I've been saying that those words too much lately. I've been constantly saying, oh, to a certain extent, and it doesn't even make sense. But like, I know that I had a specific amount of control over what I wore, right? Not ultimately, but I know that when I chose what I wore, I always chose bright things. But then when I started buying clothes for myself, I only ever bought black clothes, and that's just kept happening since I started. So why is it? Maybe because I was in the punk rock scene, so I thought black was cool. That's possible. But here's my post hoc, completely bullshit reasoning, right? This has nothing to do with reality, but it neatly fits into a arc I created for myself, right? The time I started wearing black is a time where I would consider my persona to be predominantly blindingly white, which won't make any sense to you unless you had the manic breakdown that I did. But there's a specific essence to white, just on a color level, right, on a material level, which is something I've known as a child, since I was a child, right? This is just like a basic fact of reality to me, where white just dispels all the colors, right, equally. So white will always look like the colors being shined on it, and if it's subjected to white light, right, which is just a combination of multiple frequencies of light, it will look white. But black, on the other hand, absorbs all types of colors, right? Black uh, just absorbs all light equally, which is why it's black. So to me, these two colors are like the only real colors. Every other color, to extent, feels like a defect. And the problem with existing as a person who is blindingly white, is that you necessarily, right? You necessarily end up repelling people, right? Very intentionally, very inconsiderately, right? And maybe when I was at a point in my life where I decided that I needed to just compensate for that tendency, right? I was like, time to wear black to contrast against this tendency I have, right? Because I knew even at the time I was really into the idea that black absorbs light, right? I knew I was really into the idea, and to an extent it felt like wearing black was a sort of penance at the time. Like, it felt like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm Johnny Cash, I'm like the man in black, I wear black for the oppressed people, right? But at that point in time, it felt like black was like a hair shirt to me, right? It was like something I was doing to repent, and I had more than enough to repent for. So maybe that's why I started wearing black. I have no idea. Obviously, black also looks good. Like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I hate the aesthetics of black. But it's like, it's gotten now to the point where I can't conceptualize ever wearing anything other than black. And when my hair wasn't black, it made me uncomfortable. And that only went away when I dyed my hair black. And is that one of those things that like Catholics have when they get uncomfortable when they stop self-punishing in some way or something like that, you know? Am I still punishing myself for things that most people have already forgiven me for? I know. For me, making singular works of art has never been that interesting. The part that has always fascinated me is the continuum of art, and well, a singular piece can contribute to a larger story, I guess. So when you're watching a Toadsmite video, it's not really a Toadsmite video, it's a Toadsmite, right? It's a piece of this large artistic statement that makes up Toadsmite as a concept, I guess. But what's Toadsmite as a concept? Now, obviously, it isn't my self, right? Since I reject the notion that the self should exist or should be enabled. And Toadsmite obviously is not really my ego, because the ego can't be named or described. It's the unknowable everything, or the creative nothing, or however you want to parse the concept. So when it comes to Toadsmite, right, it's an art project, just simply put. And as an art project, it has a specific statement. But the issue with putting it that simplistically is that the type of statement that Toadsmite makes is a statement that can only be discovered over time, right? It's not a statement I could ever know, because I just didn't know the future, right? The future is always inevitable. Every condition inherently creates its own future. So to a certain extent, Toadsmite always had to be a specific thing, right? But with the passage of time, it meant that I could also discover what Toadsmite was always supposed to be. I could see how the entire story unfolds from the initial conditions. And when it comes to Toadsmite, the initial conditions are very simple. It's a trial of the unknown tape. That is the core essence of Toadsmite. And when it comes to Trial of Time and Tape, right, what was it really about? Like, I know on a surface level, it could be seen as just, oh hey, here's me reviewing Digi's albums. And to a certain extent, that's what it was, because that was the goal that I had going into it, right? That's what I wanted to do. There was this building desire for me when I got really into Digi's music to just review all of her albums. But it didn't turn out that way, right? It was never going to turn into me reviewing all of Digi's albums. That was just going to be an impossibility. So what did it turn into? What did it eventually become? And really, the only way I can describe it is it's a schizobiography of a year of my life. It's achronological, right? It jumps between various points in time. It jumps between various stages of my life, right? It goes through the entire phase I had, right? It starts by describing how I got into Digi, right? And functionally it ends by describing how I stopped being a giant fan of Digi. And all that is contained within the book itself, right? It's not the meta text. The text itself is just the biography, right, of me during that specific period of time. And it's framed through all these experiences I had when it came to listening to Digi's music. And the most fascinating part for me is that it also describes the entire process I went through when it came to writing the book. Like, within the book there are multiple passages detailing exactly how I wrote it. And to an extent, right, that doesn't really mean that much. It's just, oh, you're just writing about how you wrote the book. That seems boring, but the way it's laid out, right, it's sparse, it's convoluted, right, it's reflective of my own process, right, because it wasn't a linear process, it wasn't a clean process. It was something that I didn't go through in a coherent way, right? And a big reason for why I'm making videos right now, right? A big reason why I went like, oh, I can actually communicate something in a way that's natural for me, but also a way that other people can appreciate, is because Digi read the book I wrote, right? And Digi was like, yeah, you're pretty much right, and I think the book is interesting, right? And that really motivated me, that really inspired me to do more, because I was still incredibly into Digi, and I'm still grateful to Digi. I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, Digi never meant anything to me, because Digi obviously meant a lot to me at a specific point in time. But like, that knowledge to me, that I could express myself and still be appreciated in that way, that was really important to me. However, for me, the ways have been derivative from Digi as a YouTube channel have always been structural. I don't think I've ever tried to make the same kind of art that Digi does. I mean, I kinda did with Zenith, I guess, but that was so far removed from the original context that it wasn't really tied anymore to Digi, but I'll get to that later. But the first real video project I made that was significant to me was the Eternal Cup of Misaki, because that was a long project, and I kind of undertook it as a gift to my friend, because we had been watching NHK together over Discord for a while, and when I went to Sweden to hang out with him, we just watched the entire show, and it was a great experience. It was really nice. And over the course of watching the show, we obviously talked about and we came to our own conclusions. And he presented like a plethora of really good points, and I really liked a lot of his attitude towards the show. So when I started thinking that I want to make a video about it, it was basically just explicit, like, okay, I wanna, because I knew he wouldn't want to make a video about it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just take some of the things he said, right? I'm gonna mix it in with my own interpretation of the show, and I'm gonna present the conclusions that we kind of came together. And it was kind of a gift to him, because I had a really nice experience, and I knew that he was really passionate about the show, and it's still one of my favorite shows, so I'm also passionate about it, of course. But it was something that was made so much more enjoyable to me by the fact that it was an experience I could share. So I wanted to show that in my own way, which was making that video. So I made that video, and it kind of blew up way beyond what I expected, which at the time was like 100 views. But that was really insane to me, because all of the times when I put out the video at that time, it didn't really get any views. So that was also a thing that really propelled me forward, because I could both share an experience I had and also get some type of recognition from it, which was really nice at the time, because I felt like I didn't really have it very much anymore. But what I didn't really expect is that I was about to make some of the best friends I've ever had, and I kind of stopped caring. Because even though recognition from strangers can be nice, and I'm not gonna dismiss that and be like, no, you should never want that. But also it doesn't hold a candle to how nice it is to be recognized by people who you also really respect. And when I started getting really close with Noah and Plunger, it was really nice to have my self-expression, my art appreciated by people who I also really respected. And it was an incredibly nice experience to be able to just create something and share it as a part of an ethos, right? Because at that point I was no longer creating like, oh, what's something I can do to express myself, right? It started to go beyond that. It started to go like, oh, what can I do to express this mentality, this vision that I also really respect? Because, for example, when I made the Gigavlog series, that wasn't just something I would come up with. That was inspired by Plunger saying that she had made a movie, and I was like, okay, I don't want to make an edited 4-hour movie that takes a year to make. What I want to make is a vlog that's an hour and a half long, and that I can call a movie, because that would be nice, right? And then that created a sequel where I was like, okay, I kind of want to do the same thing better. And then one day the sequel was also really inspired by No Frankie's Sacred Chaos that I had started watching at that point. And after that, Gigavlog 3 was just created through a conversation I had, where I was like, what if I just climbed on top of a tree and I made a vlog? And it was like, that was like a funny idea, right? And I was like, yeah, it could be Gigavlog 3. And I think no, I was like, that's fucking perfect. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm making that would be really cool. So I made Gigavlog 3, right? So like all of this wasn't really created by something, like none of the art I made has ever been something that lacks direct influences, you know. It's just sometimes the direct influences are not necessarily directly reflected in the art, I guess. Like for me, art is always something that's communal. Like, I've never been the type of person who can just make art alone and be happy with it. It's always been that I need to make it together with some people. And as it turned out, I found this group of people who kept introducing me to more and more people who I who I respect and who I get inspired by constantly. Like all the Tenpas, everyone who makes art really inspires me, and really both makes me want to make art for them and also use the specific techniques or methods of communication that they use to a certain extent, and it's really nice because it feels like I'm part of creating like a entirely new way of expressing yourself to an extent. Although when you really think about it, it's not like any of this is entirely new. Like it's still basically just the most logical thing you can do when you want to make vlogs and you're a mentally ill person. But the novelty is just in the degree of ambition that only serves to impress one another, because the self-expression, right, is inherently inaccessible to me. To me, that's important. And even when it isn't inherently inaccessible, as I said before, it's still valuable and it's still a part of the ethos, right? Because it still has as a core part that it's not intentionally accessible, you know. And yeah, that's really nice for me, because there's these entirely new forms of expressing yourself that are emerging in what I see, right? And they're created by this immense confluence of like post-Digi influences, I guess, really. Because the thing with Digi is that she always tried to communicate, right? And it never really seemed to work out for her from what I've seen. So when you just stop doing that and you only try to communicate with the specific people who can understand the uncommunicable, then you just create this like really cool shit to me. Like when it comes to like all the Tenpas. Shouts out if you make art and you're a Tenpa, shouts out the Crab Stack, shouts out Daka, C, Nia, Horror, everyone else too. Chalet, Lane, Klausus, shouts out to all of you, shout out. And I know that this might be a bit of an unpopular take, because I know we value the idea of being post-effort, and I value the idea of being post-effort, but to me it was still really important to have those ambitious ways of expressing myself, and I really like innovative, ambitious projects. Not because they're inherently better, but because I feel like when it comes to driving expression forwards, you kind of need to have that ambition, right? Because if you never go like, hey, you know what, my next video is going to be 8 hours long, then you're never gonna have the idea that might be tenable, you know. And having the knowledge that like no can just make an 8-hour video and I'll watch all of it in like just marathon it basically over the course of like an evening and the morning. Like that creates so much room for new forms of expression, right? It creates so much room for just being able to experiment more with time and length and density, because these are variables most people wouldn't consider, because there aren't any forms of art that are 8 hours long, right? Like in the conventional sense, there might be like a director's cut of a movie trilogy, that's 8 hours long, but there's no singular piece of art in the mainstream. There's some Nazi graffiti here. Like in the mainstream, there isn't a form of art that just expressly plays with time in that way. And in a culture where time keeps getting shortened, right, and quickened, where the form of expression that all the Zoomers partake in is making like short 10-second videos, right? It's really valuable to just see what's radically opposed to just a incredibly slow burn philosophical slice of life that just lasts for an insane amount of time. And to me, like, those frontiers are the most worth exploring, because what you can take away from that is always going to be more significant than what you can take away from just doing what everyone else is doing, or just making something experimental without the ambition to make it something memorable, you know. And that mentality started being more important to me as I kept making videos, because when I started making videos, it was just being in bed drunk, wanting to talk to someone, not having anyone to talk to, and then turning my phone to the ceiling and just ranting about something, and then deleting the rant the next day when I woke up. And that type of very impulsive art is obviously valuable. It's obviously something I appreciate, and in its own way, it's very challenging, and it can be taken to insane extents when it comes to exactly what moments you choose to capture. But for me, what I think about when I think about what Dotesmite video is, it necessarily starts for me at Zenith. Right? That's the start of Act 2, I guess, when it comes to like the channel's mythology. Because that's when I started to want to actually make impressive videos, not just for other people, but also for myself. And I don't think in hindsight that Zenith was particularly good. I think it's actually quite average when it comes to most of my videos nowadays, or even very much below average. But what was important to me at that point is the shift in mentality. Because that's when I realized that I didn't have to make art that was only impulsive, or that was only outside my own control. But that was when I started realizing that I could actually start exercising control over what I make on YouTube, I guess. And that has led me down a lot of really cool paths. For example, Newtip Ramble number 0, it was that just happened when I saw Tenpa, and I was like, oh damn, I'll never make a video this good. I can make a video that's longer. So in 2 days I just made an insanely long video, and that's actually kind of endemic of the Dotesmite mentality, right? Because I've always really looked up to people who I see as quote-unquote human content machines. Like even before Digi, that was always the archetype that I really looked up to. So a part of what has become my self-image as tied to Dotesmite is these tasks, I guess. Like even before Zenith, when I was making like an episode of Gamer Girl ASMR every week and putting countless hours into my Minecraft Let's Plays that maybe 2 people watched, and just doing stuff like that. Like that was still to me this drive to have these giant projects, but I had the conception all wrong, right? I thought that what I should be moving towards at that point still is the things that I myself consume, right? But the issue is that oftentimes what you like isn't isn't what you're good at. And even though what I like are podcasts and weird, or not even weird, but Minecraft Let's Plays, just and stuff like that, right? That's not necessarily what I'm good at, and obviously it's a skill that I can learn. But as I kept going, I realized that I didn't have the dedication to really do either, because I didn't really care about either idea enough to like dedicate myself to it fully, and the very constrained nature of having a series was also wearing down on me, because I couldn't just interface with things as I would normally, but rather I would have to specifically fit them into a format. And I've never been good at formats, and that's why I deliberately have started to avoid them. But at that time I hadn't learned that lesson yet, and to me the essence of Act 2 really was moving away from just making things I like and starting to find what my own vision was, I guess, when it comes to creating things like that. It was kind of an entire process of learning how to not have to be on YouTube. That was important, because if I had never done that, I couldn't have made any of these videos, because if I saw myself at this point still as someone who's a YouTuber and someone whose only form of self-expression is YouTube, I would not be able to make videos that I like, because I would have to make specifically videos that fit that self-conception, right? But since I've gotten rid of that self-conception, I've been able to make things that I think are really cool. And I've discovered how to kinda, to an extent, surrender my ego temporarily to create the art I want to see. Which might not seem ideal to a lot of people, but that's a really nice feeling to me. Like being able to make a hour-and-a-half long vlog every day for a week, and in one day film 2 of them, wake up, film an hour-and-a-half long vlog, 10 before going to sleep, film another one. Like that type of process was really, really cathartic to me. Was it fun? Not really. Was it enjoyable? Immensely. And that's been really important for me. Is learning how to make enjoyable things even when they're not really fun, because otherwise I'm doing neither. Like, because the fact of the matter is that no matter how much I enjoy making YouTube videos, it's not really a fun form of self-expression to me. Because in really direct terms, expressing myself is not really fun for me, because I don't really feel a compulsion to express that much about myself. But when I want to make personal art, that just comes as a part of it, is that you have to express yourself. And even when you make impersonal art, you obviously have to also express yourself. But that's a bit of a different thing. But there's this certain tyranny, right? The tyranny of a medium. And my medium of choice is primarily YouTube videos that are like an hour-and-a-half long. Also, this place is really interesting to me, because the reason I originally started filming my city was because I wanted to express this very strong phenomenon that I experience, where places become very intimately tied with events. No matter where I go in my city, I get vague memories or very explicit memories of things I've been through at that place before. And the entire city feels really lived in for me. It feels like I've done something everywhere here. But since that was what I was trying to communicate, it has kind of overtaken the original experiences. So, for example, when I walked past that one specific street, I remember very strongly how I recorded my response to C's parade video in that place, and how I like even down to like basically what I said. I just repeated myself in a rambling way to describe dark cry or light cry rather. So that's one thing that happens when you spend your time vlogging. It's the memories of the vlogs overtake the original things we're trying to convey. And much in the same way that when I wrote Trial of Thunder on tape, right, I crystallized the writing process into the book, right. I crystallized the entire process that it took me to get to the point of writing it. My vlogs have also kind of done the same thing where I've crystallized everything I've vlogged about, right. It feels like I've made things stuck in time, and I've made experiences into art in such forms that the art is now the experience I can convey. Another experience I have is when I think back about the funny video arc, which has now become the bane of my existence, by the way, where I one day I was cooking pancakes, right, and I was basically making a normal Toadsmite vlog where I was just jumping from topic to topic and ranting about things, and then I posted and I was like, should I upload this as like one long vlog or should I just upload them as separate videos, right? And someone was like, yeah, you should just upload them as separate videos, and I was like, okay, I haven't done that before, so I'm gonna try doing that and see how it comes out. So I made each one a thumbnail and the title. I intentionally styled them after Leafy videos because I was for some reason really into Leafy in that time period. I don't know what happened to me, I don't know why I did that, but I intentionally was embracing the clickbait, right. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make the most clickbait titles and thumbnails, right, and the content, right, was still a Toadsmite vlog. It was nothing different, it was just in a different format. And that was kind of the push I really needed to get to the point where I embraced the format that I actually like making videos in, which is the long form vlog format, right? But in that era, I experimented with the other direction, which was very important. But I remember hanging out in real life with a friend and showing him the videos and titles and thumbnails, because I was like, look, these are fucking hilarious. And Terry was like, you do realize that you're just wasting people's time with these? And I was like, nah, the thing is that even though like these videos look just fucking atrocious, right, they're actually like pretty good. I remember actually watching them back because I was like, am I just wasting people's time? And then I listened to them and it was like, oh yeah, these are some pretty good videos. And so I was like, yeah, the thing is, these videos are actually good. I just presented them in this way because I thought it would be really fucking funny, and it was really fucking funny. I still really liked that I did that. And it eventually came down to him being like, and yeah, I remember that because, not because anything came out of it, but because it just kind of epitomized what I was doing already. So, oh yeah, the pain of my existence. When I made those videos, I was like, yeah, I'm making clickbait, right? And I remember No Thank You being like, yeah, if you're making clickbait, then why are these videos not getting views? And I was like, look, one of them got views. But then over time, it's not only that those videos have kind of generally been like stayed more relevant because like those my audience didn't watch them, but those videos are like actually discoverable through like YouTube search or whatever. One of those videos, the worst encoder in yeah Musi 2 video, now has like over 1,000 views, and it's horrible because like it's just so not representative of anything that actually matters outside its context. and this context is this entire like series that have been building up, which just like it doesn't make any sense if you don't know what Classics Cast is. It's an accessory to Classics Cast, really, like that specific video, and because that's why I don't really like thinking of videos as individual videos, because all of them serve to provide more context to other videos, so just seeing them as individual doesn't really do them justice for me. Let me tell you a story. Right now I'm chilling here with my white monster and with my dog food in the grocery bag. And what I wanted to do yesterday, the entire reason I went outside and recorded all of that stuff, was because I needed to go to the store, right? Because I needed dog food. And when I give my dog the grocery store discount dog food, her health seems to get first, so I got some nice dog food. I got some good stuff, right? But yesterday, what happened is that I arrived at the store, right? And since I had been making these videos and taking detours and so on, it was like, oh, it's 7 o'clock right now. I looked outside, right, and it was like, okay, these normal stores close at 8, except on Sunday, when they close at 7. It was exactly 7, like on the minute. Like, not a minute earlier, not a minute later. It was 7:00, right? And I was like, there's a 1 in 7 chance that it's Sunday right now. Because I don't know what date anything is, right? I don't pay attention to the fucking calendar. So I looked at my phone. It was fucking Sunday. So I just had to go home. Now, it wasn't completely wasted because I needed to get some pasta and some garlic because I was running out of those at home too. So it wasn't a complete waste, but it felt like shit, right? I also got a white monster yesterday because not just because I like white monster, right? Obviously it's just something I like. However, there's also the thing where I'm trying to quit sugar because this is Young Toastmates 200 IQ fucking weight loss strategy, right? Where I'm just gonna eat normal food like normal, right? I'm not gonna make any significant lifestyle changes. I'm just gonna stop eating sweets because I eat way too much fucking sweets. And the thing is, I don't even like them. I don't even like sweets. That's fucking retarded part. But yeah. So now I'm quitting sweets, and this monster serves like a replacement because, first of all, it doesn't have any real sugar in it, right? So if it's like some real sugar addiction or whatever, that should stop. If it's like a chemical thing, probably, I don't fucking know. But more importantly, it's the one sweet thing that I really like, and it doesn't have any calories in it, so I can just fucking drink white monster. I just needed to provide this fucking context because it's such a fucking stupid story. It's such a fucking stupid story. One thing that I didn't talk about yesterday was my music, because I planned to get to it, but then I crashed really hard when I got home, and then I just got drunk, and then I was too tired to do anything. I planned to finish this video yesterday, by the way. Like I kinda lost the plot. I don't really know what it's supposed to be anymore. But yeah. So let's talk a bit about my music and how that's evolved and how that's like an important form of self-expression for me. Because this is something that's really hard to communicate. Because for me, music doesn't work through my brain, right? My brain cannot parse music. No matter how hard I try when it comes to understanding music or making music or whatever, my brain just can't fucking understand it. Like I'm just on a cognitive level completely non-musical. But when it comes to a physical level, my body reacts incredibly strongly to music, right? And when I make music and I get really into it, it's more of a trance state. where I literally just stop thinking, and it's just an entirely physical endeavor at that point. Which is why I don't like making good music, which is why I like making music that I can really make in a physical way, right? Whether it's just fucking going absolutely nuts on a guitar, or just fucking around and screaming, or whatever. Like, the more physicality I can introduce into my music, the more I enjoy making it. So when I started making music, it was as a joke. It was literally just because, hey, look, what if I made a trap album, right? What if I made a trap mixtape, and it was about being a trap, and I made that fucking mixtape, right? That's the shitty trap raps, whatever its full name was. That's the thing, yeah. And after that, right, I was like, yo, what if I rap over Naruto music? And then I went and did that. And that was really fun. It's not a good album, I don't think, at least. But it was really fun to make. But after that, right, I met No and Plunder, right, again. Like, they fucking radicalized me into art. Fucking... I never planned to, like, make art that wasn't literature. Like, that never was a part of my scope. I was always like, yeah, I'm gonna make fucking books and articles and stuff like that, and the rest was just kind of accessories or things I dabbled with, and I didn't really want to put that much into that. But like, I was like, yo, Plunder, what if we made a mixtape together? Oh, no. First I started making 21st century schizoid raps, because I had been making beats and I had this beat, and one time I was in a voice call with No Thank You, right? And I was like, yo, I just came up with the best fucking song name. And it was Day Drinking at 3 a.m. And I was like, I'm gonna make that song. So I took one of the beats I had made, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make Day Drinking at 3 a.m. over this song. And then I just, for the first time when I was doing that, I got into this physical trance space where I just let my body take over, right? Because I had noticed that my microphone had this really cool effect where if you talked loudly into it, it would create this really organic, really nice sounding distortion. And so when I screamed into the microphone, it sounded really fucking good. So I just got into the trance state, just screamed into that microphone, and I made the fucking 21st century schizoid raps album, basically. Just, it's all made like that way, kinda. And it was a I made a lyric analysis video where I basically talk about like what all the songs mean. It was kind of like a philosophical album, right? It was like, oh look, this album has layers in it. It has references to like fucking alchemy and classical mythology and whatever. But like after that, I was like, I should make an album with Young Ethernet. But the problem was I didn't have a good mic, right? And I was like, okay, because this is what happens to me with music. I don't want to make the same music twice. Like if I've expressed everything I want to with a specific set of implements, I don't want to repeat that. So I was like, yo, Plunder, what if we made an album together? And then Plunder gave me some beats. I got a new microphone eventually, and then I made a Wish I Had Drugs. And yeah, that was also really nice to make. Like those two albums are like me trying to make normal music to some extent still, because that was before I was like, I'm bored of making anything that could be potentially construed as music. And then I made fucking Fragments, Memories, Echoes, and Autistic Punk, and I guess now I'm making Yashi Bass, which is just a little B-style freestyle tape. Yeah, like when it comes to music, it's a way more cathartic form of self-expression than making videos is, because making videos is something like kind of passive. It's something that I kind of grind away at, right? It's like something that just happens in the background while I go about my day. At least with the types of videos I make. Like even when I make like really researched videos, like that research is just like a part of my daily routine, basically. And it doesn't feel like a cathartic explosion of creativity or whatever. But when it comes to music, it's something that I can do that's just like really physical, and I appreciate that a lot. I appreciate that a great amount. But yeah, there's also the thing where whenever I stop wanting to make YouTube videos, when I go like, okay, I'm done with YouTube videos for a while, I always just default to music recently. Because if I don't have the motivation to try to make like an ambitious video, right, then making just filler videos like Toad's Guide to a Company Tower. I know that's a fairly well liked video I made, but to me that was a completely filler video, right? To me that was just like, okay, I'm not really motivated to make YouTube videos, but I want to get something out of myself. So I just made the fucking Base Guide to a Company Life, or Toad's Guide rather, and even though it apparently came out good, it wasn't satisfying to me at all. I'm gonna make like something really good. It's satisfying, but not because the process of making it was inherently satisfying, but because I know that I was able to like go into some type of new terrain, right? With new to Bramble number 0, right? The new terrain was just how much density and energy can I put in a 6-hour video. That was the concept basically of that video. And it was originally supposed to be, I don't know if we talked about this before, but it was originally supposed to be like this gradual journey into like more and more personal things about me as a human, right? But I decided that that's not something I want to do. I got it out of my system, I made it, but then I was like, no, I wanna reformat it, and that's why it became achronological, because I didn't like that aspect of it, because to me it's not like I want to put my soul into a YouTube video. I just honestly speaking, I don't want my multiplicities to become a part of this specific art project, because that's the issue. Like when you crystallize time, right? When you formalize your experiences, right, and you make that into art, it stops being something that you can enjoy for yourself, right? It starts being a part of an artistic project, right? So you have this like this fractured self in like a crystallized art form, right? And then you also have to just consistently remain with those fractures, right? Because you have made yourself into a solid object, right? You can't really keep fluidity when you're making yourself into an art project, I guess. So there's a certain degree to which I can't put all my multiplicities into this art form, because if I did, it just would haunt me. It would become a ghost. It would become a ghost in the wired, and it would be consumed by the fucking machine spirit. But yeah, you know. So what's even the point of this video? Why does this video have to exist? Well, first of all, right, I planned to make a video thematically about this image I made way back, because I was in a weird state. I was going a bit bonkies. I was going a tiny bit bonkies. So I was like, yeah, I'll make this image to reflect all the people in my head who I was inventing. And it was really useful as a tool, because it helped me contextualize a lot of things. And, well, first of all, this is no longer even accurate. This image isn't even accurate, right? And secondly, trying to explain this or trying to express this, even though I did it in like a somewhat abstract way, right, just didn't work at all. So I just ended up putting a bunch of meditations about the self or whatever, whatever you want to call it, into a video, and then I just called it the video, right? It has strayed so far beyond its original point that it feels kind of pointless to even put this in the video in the first place. But I thought I needed to explain why I wanted to make this video in the first place. Like, honestly speaking, I don't even know how many more of these types of videos I have in me. Since I stopped eating sweets, or eating sugar rather, I don't have to go to the store every day anymore, because before, if I bought myself food for multiple days, right, I would buy sweets. And since my appetite for sweets is so ridiculous, right, I would just go through just way too much. And that created an inherent need to go to the store every day, because that was the only way I could ration how many sweets I was eating. But I still want to get some fresh air. I enjoy being away from home for short periods of time, and I enjoy going on walks. So I'm outside now, and I'm just gonna take a quick walk again. The snow seems to be melting, but at this point I've given up hope. At this point, it just seems like the snow is here forever until next fucking winter. But it is how it is, it is how it is. So what's the future of Toadsamite, right? When I'm talking about I don't really find it very satisfying to really keep making these videos, right? When I'm talking about hey, look, I don't know how many of these I have left in me, right? What's the future of Toadsamite? Well, first of all, as you could probably tell, because I've either told you or you've been paying attention, I'm trying to make some fucking stupid, grand philosophical point right now. I'm making fucking a ridiculous amount of videos with some thematic similarities, and then I'm just expecting people to be like, I understand what you're trying to say, right? And then eventually, as everyone has to, I'll make a video being like, oh, this is the explanation for everything. This is what everything really meant, right? So that's still inevitable in the future, right? That's a thing that's guaranteed to happen at some point. But beyond that, right? Beyond that, what's the future of Toadsamite, right? Because Toadsamite, as I've tried to express, is inherently just an art project with a specific ethos, right? And the thing is that I'm not an art project with a specific ethos. I have loads of multiplicities, right? I have many very varied interests. And the ethos of Toadsamite is simply just incompatible with a large amount of those interests, right? Because the ethos of Toadsamite is a very specific thing for me. It's not something that I can make apply to everything, right? And there have been times where I'm like, oh, I should start up a new project or start up something, and I just would have to do it on a different channel, right? Because since individual videos have never really interested me, right? I've always kind of thought that Toadsamite as a channel, right, should have a cohesive aesthetic, right? That's why you can see clear delineations between Toadsamite eras, because I've always been making sure that my titles and thumbnails and so on have been appropriate for whatever theme or whatever aesthetic I'm trying to convey at a specific point in time. And I've reinvented myself before, kind of after I made 21 Savage Goes to the Glue Factory, right? After that, I basically just started making completely different types of art, right? But it's like, I know what my favorite YouTube videos are, right? I know what videos I enjoy watching the most. So if I was to make YouTube videos, it would have to be a type of video that I also enjoy watching, so this type of video just has exhausted itself to me, like the post-digi vlog type of video just doesn't have anything that I can contribute to it, like, for much longer. And that's not because I'm inadequate, right? That's not because the format is inadequate. It's just, it has specific constraints, and I have specific constraints, and they just don't always line up, right? So in the future, I might want to do them again, right? But like, right now, I'm kind of just trying to make my peace with the format, I guess. Because truthfully speaking, I've been out of ideas for unique presentations and unique concepts for a while now, right? That's why I had the entire like meme where Toads might has fallen off, right? And because really I just felt like the things I was doing weren't really satisfying in a creative sort of way. But now I've been satisfied again with the videos I'm making, and I figured out how to say a lot of interesting things that I just haven't figured out to say before, or figured out how to say them before, and I've obviously also found some novel presentations and new concepts for creating this type of art, right? But it's like you know Kanye West? You know how he went and was like, yeah, I'm gonna change the entirety of the hip-hop landscape, right, with my fucking college dropout, late registration, graduation fucking albums, right? And then after that he was like, I had time to make 808s and heartbreaks and change the entire game once again. And then he was like, I had time to make the life of Pop and fucking Jesus and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and like all of those albums. It's like, for me, it's all about styles, right? For me, it couldn't be like, oh, I can fucking slap on a filter to my videos and just make, because I already did that once, right? I did that with the Nihilist, and that to me was the end of like that thing, you know. And I always end up returning to what I think is like the Toadsmite presentation, right? What I think is the Toadsmite ethos, right? And I really just don't have any way that I would want to reinvent myself on YouTube anymore. Like I could be making different types of videos, right? And I will be in the future, right? I have plans for some really cool concepts that I want to explore. But just, those aren't gonna be Toadsmite in a classic sense, you know. Those are necessarily gonna be just different interests that don't really align with this ethos, and I think that's good. I think that's fine, because art projects to me always have an expiration date, and turns out for Toadsmite that expiration date is basically like a year. I mean, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna now change my YouTube fucking name and just put on a different persona or whatever. Like, nah, that's also not what I'm really interested in. It's just, yeah, I don't have that much more to say, really, like, ultimately. And I know I could just be a normal person and just say the same things over and over again, like Thunder, for example. Thunder has made like 20 videos at least about just, hey, you shouldn't suffer when you make art, and all of them are good. Like, I enjoy watching every one of those videos, but it's like, I just can't repeat myself in that way and be satisfied with it, right? For me, I I need to say something new every time I say something, and it just turns out that this is kind of pushing the limits, right? This is me just kind of reaching the end of the line where I just don't have that many more new things to say. And that's just how it is sometimes.